Greetings, guys. Another busy day at FSU. Certainly, FSU hosting their second scrimmage this fall or this spring. So certainly a lot going on as far as FSU. That was early in the morning. I think the big news of the day, certainly the standout for much of the other stuff, is 2025 quarterback Tremel Jones committed to FSU out of Mandarin. Very athletic quarterback, adds a lot to the offense as far as athleticism and also his ability to throw. Had a great year at Mandarin High School over there in Jacksonville. Certainly a guy that I think has been at the top of their board for a while. I think it was not a surprise that he committed. He's visited FSU like 3 or 4 times already this spring, so that jumped on board with that. Before that, I think everyone heard, by now my news on 2021 class member wide receiver Destin Hill got the first indication of from some FSU contacts that finally got some word that the expectation is that Destin arrives and on May 13th. Like I said, I wouldn't have reported this and give a call to hour if I didn't hear something that was I felt significant for me. So that will be interesting news. Certainly, if that follows through, if anything changes, I'll certainly update it. But that's kind of what I picked up. Certainly, those can watch. We already have a recruiting wrap that's up on the site. Several other guys to go through. Four-star running back Christian Clark out of Arizona. Technically, you're really speaking, he's out of Florida because he has a lot of ties to the Niceville, Destin area. His uncle is Kenny Felder, who played baseball at FSU and football. So he's a guy that I think people know pretty well for some of those old time Seminoles. So his mom also is a graduate of Florida State. So she certainly was loving everything. You could really tell how connected she was to the visit. I even saw some bags and stuff that they bought as far as some FSU gear. So that was pretty interesting. But I do think FSU, outside of all that stuff, I think FSU made a really nice surge for him. I think he's one of the top tier backs they want as far as second back in the class. Obviously, the number one priority is always Cam Davis. Everything looks good there, but I think he's definitely now in that strong mix for a guy that has heavy interest in FSU. It was clear that he was pretty blown away, but everything he saw on the visit, I think a lot of it was, I think he knew about what FSU did as a running game, but I think what really jumped out to him was just the way the culture is at FSU, the way it's the brotherhood, and the really detailed conversation he had with Norvell was really special. You could tell that really struck really well as far as the visit goes, and definitely a guy I think will take an official visit to FSU. So that's a guy to certainly keep a heavy eye on. I think FSU's got some nice early momentum going there with him, even though I don't think there's a clear favorite at this stage. So he definitely certainly stood out. And then you go to the receiver position. Certainly the top guy that everyone wants to know about is Jamie French. He's the teammate of Tremel Jones who committed. Tremel told me like, yeah, I'm on him. I don't, I'm on him hard. So I certainly think that adding Jones really move the needle some with FSU here. I think it's still there's still a little work to be done, but I think FSU's in its top three. I would say Ohio State and Alabama are the other teams that I hear, but I think FSU this move with both Jones committing and also the impression that FSU gave French on the visit was a big deal because I think a lot of it was French wasn't aware I think how much FSU actually throws the ball and that was you certainly his eyes lit up when he watched that scrimmage and the way FSU airs that ball. I mean they throw a ball a lot, so that really caught his attention. I think that's also moved the needle up a little bit with FSU. So I think they're certainly making a big splash. And even better news is the fact that he says he's going to really push to try to get back over there for the spring game. Jamie's one of the best receivers in the 2025 class. I think they're now. I think before this visit, I wasn't ready to consider them like a really major threat, but I think he was interested, but you just didn't get that warm and fuzzy feeling. This time you got that. It was strong. There's a lot of interest. He loves what they're doing. Obviously, you got a lot of heavy competition with Ohio State and Alabama, but I think this is a jump for FSU. Just the way things went this weekend. He was the main the one wide receiver that got an offer was Isaiah Cannon. It's a guy out of in-state kid that they certainly like. A lot of size. Certainly has that length that they covet. Not ready to put him in the top tier guys yet because there's such a loaded wide receiver hot board. I do think that's a guy that if when they see him during the season, if he looks the same as far as what they feel in film, I think he's a guy that probably could be moved into that featured guys that I cover on the hot board. So definitely keep your eye on him. He's a new name that's in the picture. Another one is Derek Plies out of Andrew Jackson, out of Jacksonville, offensive lineman, 3-star. He's a guy. I loved his frame. I love everything he looked. He really holds his weight really well. He's visited FSU 3 or 4 times. Comes from a basketball background. You can see that with his body. Certainly had a really good visit today. He got an offer from FSU. That was kind of the next step that he was waiting on. Now I think it's going to get heavy because FSU hasn't offered a lot of tackles, and this is a guy that they seem to have taken a liking to. I think they want to work with him at a camp setting in summer in the June, but I think he's a guy to really keep your eye on because there's something about his film that is really intriguing to FSU. So definitely keep your eyes on him. Now we got most of the visitors that came in. The one guy that came in late was 4-star defensive lineman Myron Charles. He came in, I think, coming into that visit, there was probably more buzz about Florida, Alabama, LSU. This is really his first detailed look at FSU. He's a 2025 defensive tackle. Although he's been talking a lot to Odell, this is his first detailed look at everything. And I think FSU, like you'll hear a lot of some of these prospects, that they really made a big first impression as far as on Myron. I now think FSU is now in that top 2, top 3 tier. Still think it's the first visit, so you want to see even more movement. I think he wants to see a game. I think, but this is a good early starting point for FSU, so definitely a big move there. The defensive ends position, the number one guy that I think I was focused on was Booker Pickett out of Wharton High School and over there in Tampa. I think before the visit, I wasn't sure. Like, okay, is FSU a major contender because they haven't gotten them on campus that much compared to maybe a few other schools like Florida and Miami and such, but certainly likes Ohio State. I think has some family or legacy at both, I think, Miami and Ohio State, so that's why those teams are certainly there. He grew up an FSU fan. I do expect fully that you will see official visit for him. He is the number one, in my opinion, the number one speed rush edge guy that they want. There's a lot of edge guys, but as far as a speed rusher, I think Booker fits everything that they're kind of looking for. And again, I talk about this a lot. Big first steps and recruitments, and certainly getting him back on campus was a major deal. And to add some momentum and kind of see different things of not just how FSU practices, but also the fit and the comfort and feeling at home. And I think all those things FSU checked the boxes for what Booker was looking for. There was a few other guys like Amari Williams, 2025 defensive end slash tight end. I think he was really shocked at how much he liked it. So that was another guy that was shocked by it. Javion Hilson, another 4-star defensive end, kind of raw compared to Amari and Booker, but at the same time, gets off the line really quick as far as on the edge. So FSU certainly likes what they see on the film. Another guy I think you'll see some working with, just in the camp setting and just in seeing where kind of what the pecking order they would do with him. Moving on to the last position, you got defensive back Wardell Mack, 4-star DB. LSU's been the heavy favorite for a while. I've heard he's like was at LSU for like 3 weeks, so they didn't want him visiting anywhere. So they certainly, I think they probably weren't too happy that he's at FSU with all the connections FSU has to the Louisiana area with Patrick Surtain being born in New Orleans. Certainly, David Johnson has a lot of connections in the boot. So I think everything with the culture was the really best takeaway. You really saw just the culture and the difference that just jumped out to Wardell. Still think there's still work to do. I'd still consider LSU for me the favorite, but at the same time, you could see FSU moving very much in the picture. I think 1 or 2 more visits, and I think you can definitely consider FSU a major threat. So that's something definitely keep an eye on. Probably going to be in my next hot board because I feel like he's a guy that is certainly coveted, a take and all that stuff. And then the more visits we see, I think the more you'll see him move the board. So if that happens with visits, certainly keep your eye on him. The guy I think FSU likes that's probably one of the underrated guys because people always ask me who's the underrated guy. I think 3-star Ricky Knight, defensive back, been to FSU like 2 or 3 times already this spring. I think FSU is the favorite. I'm probably going to put in an RPM pick for FSU from what I'm hearing on the intel. I think this guy is underrated. I think this guy should be like a 4-star prospect. I think already performed really well at a camp. I think earned MVP honors. I think this is a guy that is also another one that Surtains likes, and certainly a guy that is going to make an impact when you put him out there. He kind of it reminds me of kind of the recruitment of Edwin Joseph, where Edwins was like not always a 4-star, but you watched him as a 4-star talent. And I think Ricky has those same characteristics. Another guy that visited was 3-star DB Kevin Levy. He's also a guy I was impressed with as far as when I watch his film. Not quite to the top tier where Ricky's at, but I think overall, he's a guy that they're intrigued with, that they're certainly interested in. So those are some of the main guys. Guys, great weekend, got a commitment. Certainly, the potential Destin Hill news, and that's kind of going to kind of go over this. But coming up, FSU has a spring game on April 15th. Not expecting a ton of visits between that time. I do think there's some major ones. April 3rd, you have 5-star plus KJ Bolden visiting. Cutter Boley is also going to pick a visit at, I think, a 2026 quarterback that FSU likes a lot. So there will be some visits scattered in there in early April, but I think most of the visits, you'll see a lot of top guys coming for that spring game. I'm expecting probably around 50 or 60 kids, if not a little bit more than that. So that's something to keep an eye on. Once again, this is Michael Langston, Senior Recruiting Analyst for Warchant.com.